Okay. Let's start with this. What is it in Mark 6? What do you notice in Mark chapter 6? Stands out to you. Yeah. Hang on. Go ahead.
Jesus referred to the people as sheep, and they need a shepherd.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, what were you gonna say?
The disciples constantly questioning Jesus about what he's trying to do.
Sure. What do you mean specifically? Point that out to me.
I feel like we're in a remote place, and can we just send them back to their houses?
Okay.
They can get their own food.
Okay. They seem to lack that confidence Jesus could do something about it, or it just seems impractical to them to feed them all.
Yeah, it seems like they don't think it can happen.
Okay.
They're lacking detail.
Because they're looking at resources and number of people. And okay. What else? Yes.
Jesus blesses the bread before he breaks it.
Yeah. What is that pattern? Did you notice that in all of them? What's that pattern? I wanted to highlight that. We're going to talk through that. So he where is it? Go to verse 39. Okay. Verse 39. Would you read for me today?
Sure.
Beginning in verse 39. Yeah, 39 through 44.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jesus directed them to have all the people sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven. He gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people. He also divided the 2 fish among all. They all ate and were satisfied. And the disciples picked up 12 baskets of broken pieces of bread and fish. The number of the men who had eaten was 5,000.
Okay. He tells everybody to sit down, right? Then he takes it, he blesses it, he breaks it, he gives it, they pass it out, and then the collected leftover. I'm abbreviating, but right? And then we get the count. Yeah? From what you remember, is that pattern the same pattern in Mark 8? Yeah. We're going to talk through that. That pattern becomes important to us. Okay? He has everybody sit down, takes it, he blesses it, gives thanks, he breaks it, he passes it to the disciples, they pass it to the crowds. Okay? Everybody eats and is satisfied, which is a critical note. I should probably put it in the list. And then you collect the leftovers and we get the count.
I think I get it. But, yeah.
We'll see.
Are they all in a big field or something?
Are they all in a big field? Yeah, I mean, it's a secluded place. So it might be, yeah, it might be that. It might be a hillside, like countryside.
5,000 people is a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Well, let's play with
Well,
that.
it's not even 5,000, it's probably more than that.
Well, right, because what does the scripture say? How many ate?
5,000 men.
So let's just do some rough population statistics, right? You got 5,000 guys. How many women do you probably have too?
5,000.
I mean, that's a rough estimate, yeah, but you figure at least married pairs for the majority of this in this day and age. So we're probably talking about another.
And all the children too.
Right, then you got to add kids.
Right.
How many kids are there?
Probably They had a lot of kids back then.
I mean, we can do a rough estimate on 2,000 kids on the low end, right? Just conservative numbers here. Conservative numbers. If you have a daughter who's not yet married but is with her mother and father, the number of women goes up in this instance.
Oh.
Yeah, unmarried women, widows, that kind of thing. They may be included in it, so the number of women could actually be higher. We're not in, but are we looking at something like 12,000 plus people? Yeah, there's a really good chance you are. The count is for men because that's the distribution point. You have them sit down in their groups of families, and then the disciples come to the heads of each group of family and distribute, and then you distribute to your family. So that's why the count is 5,000 men. But you're probably talking about 12,000 plus people. Dude, that's a lot of people. Like, just let that sink in for a quick second.
What a lot
Jesus
of
took
people.
what, 5 loaves and 2 fish? And you feed something like 12,000 people, and how much left over did they pick up? Oh, 12 baskets. That's a cool number.
Doesn't make sense.
It's just like.
That logically doesn't make sense.
No, it logically doesn't make sense.
A lot of things in the Bible don't.
I want to know the mechanism. How does that work? Jesus sits there and pulls a piece of bread off, and he just comes right back to
Yeah,
the
no, I
loaf.
really
Like,
want to know how it happened. Well, no, like you sit in the basket and like you just don't really see it, but like it just gets like replaced under like the pile.
well, I mean, he took it and
Well,
broke
more
it.
comes back than they originally
Where-
had.
He's got 12 more baskets, so like it must have like appeared.
I'm just wondering how.
Like,
We will
How
never
does it
know.
just? I mean, it's like something out of like Mario Brothers. Somebody bumps the question mark box, and here come all the coins. What happened? Okay. This story is in Mark chapter 6. Mark chapter 8 was what story?
4,000.
Right. But the pattern's basically the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
They're in a relatively deserted place. The people are hungry. It's getting late. Am I misrepresenting the story? No! It's remarkably alike.
This is the same thing as different people.
You notice the only there's only 2 real narrative things that transpire between feeding 5,000 and feeding 4,000. Feeding 5,000, Jesus gets on a boat. Well, the disciples get on a boat. Jesus walks on the lake. Minor detail. Walks on water. Woo! Okay. Anyway. He walks on water to the other side of the sea. He heals like 3 or 4 people and then feeds 4,000. That's the narrative flow of the story. There's some teaching in there, but he's sitting there teaching and doing miracles. So here's the reality. He could feed 5,000, the next day be on the other side of the sea, teach, do a few miracles, and then feed another crowd of 4,000 people. We could be talking about these events in the span of like 24 hours. You could also be talking about these events in the span of 24 days. We don't know. The scripture doesn't tell us. Either way, you would think the disciples would figure it out a little more when it comes to feed the crowd the next time. Yeah?
Yeah, they were questioning Jesus this time too.
Because they, like, dude, not enough food and too many people.
you little thing.
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in this case, this formula is still the same, though. Sit down. I'm not writing it all again. Are you kidding me?
Amen.
I'm thinking about it. Start doing that. I was like,
Okay. Yeah? Sit down, took it, blessed it, broke it, gave it, passed it, collected it, count. It's the same thing. Only in this case, it's not 5,000, it's 4, which means another 4, another, we'll shrink it, another 1,000. So you're looking at what? Okay. Or more.
Way easier.
Way easier.
9,000.
What he had? What, 5 loaves and 2 fish in Mark 6? What does he have here?
He's got like 7 this time.
7 and 7 loaves
That's it.
and a few small fish.
Oh, okay.
I hear a few small fish, and for some reason my mind goes to he's got a can of sardines.
Yeah.
He's got a kipper snack. Basically a can of sardines. Peel off the top and you eat it with a fork. It's what it is, right? Okay, so anyway. Jesus has 7 loaves of bread and some fish. He feeds 9,000 people. How many baskets of leftovers do they pick up? 7. Twelve 12,000 people, 12 baskets, perhaps one for each disciple. I don't know. I'm just playing with it, right? Maybe 1 basket for every 1,000. If it's, I don't know. Like, I don't know how the math works. Okay, I'm lost and confused. I'm still trying to figure out how on God's green earth he blesses it and breaks it and gives it to the disciples, and then there's still stuff in his hands.
Well,
Like, does he like give a half to Peter,
this is really
and then as he comes back,
That
like
still counts as a loaf?
the other half is here, and while Peter's taking it out to the crowd,
Wait,
that
maybe
half
it's like a worm, like
becomes
on
a
the
whole.
bird.
Like, what is going? Huh? I don't get it.
It's like a worm. No, it's like a worm. You break it and it just like grows back.
Yeah, it's like pulling the tail off a gecko. Eventually, it's going to
Yeah,
show up
yeah.
again. Yeah, but at some point in time, you have to think the disciples are watching him do it, going, "Are you seeing this?" Because, huh? They know, like, or does he put it in baskets and they like pass it out, and every time they reach back into the basket,
That's what I'm
there's
thinking.
another one?
Yeah. Yeah.
At some point in time, the disciples have still got to be like,
Like freaking Mary Poppins. Just keeps coming out.
Okay. What? Anyway. What about the next one? What'd you notice in the next one?
It's all about breaking bread, like,
It's about the breaking bread.
and he blesses.
Yeah, did you notice the pattern?
Pattern was there, and he also said that it was his body. As we broke.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So let's go to Mark 14 then. Because we're still just as confused. Yeah.
Mark 14:22-25 is what they say at my church when they do communion.
That's what a lot.
Absolutely. A lot of churches will use that, or they use the one in Luke as the preface to communion. Okay, so 22. As they were eating, he took bread. Blessed it. Then what? Broke it. Then
Gave it to his disciples.
why is it the same pattern? That look right there is, oh, my brain hurts. I love it. Why is it the same pattern?
Because Jesus is smart.
Fair, but cop out answer. You're not wrong. Just process. Why is it the same pattern?
Can we continue the pattern?
Can we?
Like, maybe a lot more metaphorical.
What do you mean?
Like, to, after he gives it to the disciples, like, as the communion being more of like symbolic to the gospel.
We read the passage that has the pattern in it every time we do communion, at least at some of our churches.
Right, and like, so then or communion itself, like the disciples share that with people like in action, like throughout
Okay.
that, and then
Okay.
It is maybe a bit of a stretch, but so in Passover we talked about how usually they would have a lamb, but they don't here, and so they would be confused because they don't have enough food at the Passover dinner,
Okay.
which they were in these 2 passages as well.
Ooh, I like it. It's insightful. There's an issue of food and what's present. And then there's an issue of provision, despite what looks like is present or missing. I like it.
I think God trying to paint a picture of just Jesus' nature, I guess.
Okay, talk me through it.
Like, he's trying to give us as many examples as we can of like
Mhm.
when our given circumstances don't seem realistic.
Mm.
God, like Jesus,
God's understanding of that circumstance is different.
Yep.
/ his ability to mess with it.
Yep.
Fair. I like it. What else? Think about it in terms of a developing storyline. If you're doing a close read of the Gospel of Mark, and you read Mark 6 and the feeding of 5,000, chapter and a half later, you run into Mark 8 and read the feeding of the 4,000. What are you doing?
it's repetitive.
It's repetitive. Okay. What's going on up here is you encounter that second repetition. What are you starting to think?
What if it could happen
The
again?
author isn't creative.
Okay.
Did it happen a lot of times more just twice?
Okay.
I wonder if it could happen again.
Okay.
Maybe is it the same thing?
Valid question. Same story, different perspective. Setting of the story is different though. And the details. 7 versus 5 loaves. A few small fish versus 2. 12 baskets, 7. So we got to work that out. Huh. Think in terms of storyteller. Back up a second. You're the one telling the story now, not the one encountering it. You feel like in that sort of a condensed space in the narrative, you feel it necessary to tell these 2 stories and to tell them in the same way. Why?
I think because it's like the gospel is like the climax of the story, and everything that happens before that is leading up
Oh,
to.
so these 2 earlier repetitions of the pattern are building something for you. And this is its culmination in the Eucharist, in the communion? Okay. What else? What are you wanting as a storyteller for your readers to do?
Be hooked.
What else? If you're going to be intentional, right? Tell the same stories. No, not the same. Tell these 2 different stories in the same way. That's what I want. Right? Tell these 2 stories in the same way, and then come to a third that's remarkably alike it in pattern. By the way, they are seated at the table. Yeah. What are you wanting your reader to consider in the mechanism of telling the story the same way?
Do you put yourself in the middle of the story?
Okay. It's a way to enter it because the pattern.
Oh, that we should be doing this with each other, like. as a
Fair.
fellow?
Yeah. Perhaps this is something that needs to continue.
Mhm.
What else? I keep talking about connect dots, right?
Oh, that communion should be with 5,000 foot.
No, not necessarily. I think just on the level of a storyteller, if I tell you 2 different encounters, but I use the same patterns in telling you those 2 encounters, I want you to take those 2 encounters and I want you to link them. I want you to smush it together. I want you to play connect dots. You gonna draw me a T-Rex or not? Right? I laid it out for you. I gave you color by number. Let's see what picture we can make. Sorry, I'm full of like the elementary ed whateverness today. Connect the dots and color by number and anyway. Right? When you read the story of the 5,000 and then 2 chapters, chapter and a half later, you read the story of the 4,000, you're like, wait, I've heard this. It's familiar. Your first reaction is, well, let me go back to that. And then you encounter this in 14 and you're like, wait, he took the bread, he blessed it, he broke it, he gave it to them. But now there's new stuff. See, you're accustomed to a pattern, aren't you? When Jesus takes bread, he's going to do something characteristic with it. He's going to take it, he's going to break it, he's going to bless it, he's going to give it.
Oh! Wait. This,
Take, bless, break, give.
Take, bless.
Jesus has that pattern. Every time he takes bread, he blesses it, he breaks it, he gives it. That's the pattern.
Wait, I think
Now,
I know.
Wait,
I
This,
think I know. Oh,
well, sorry, it's after gave, right? It's here. This doesn't exist over here. The pattern breaks. It's limited. So,
Is he talking about, I mean, like,
hang on. It follows the pattern, but then the pattern breaks. This is like the others, but it's a different thing. There's something new, there's something important, there's something significant. Here's the deal. Biblical storytelling follows a couple of characters, well, a handful of characteristics. But one of those characteristics is when you see repeated patterns, pay attention to the repetition. Because somewhere along the line in the story, it's going to get repeated with a break. Genesis 1. Here's the pattern of Genesis 1. God said, let there be, and there was. God separated, God saw, it was good. That is every paragraph of Genesis 1, right? God said, let there be, there was. God separated, God saw, it was good. Every single time until you get to humanity. Because God said, let there be, and there was. He separated, he saw, and then he goes, and he speaks again. The pattern breaks on day 6. The pattern's supposed to stop, and we're supposed to get, and it was good, but it's not there on day 6. Because the next thing is let us make humanity in our image and our likeness. And then he goes through the cycle again. Let us, and there was, and he saw, and this time it's very good. Every time biblical storytelling falls into a pattern, there's a break in the pattern somewhere. And the break in the pattern is a giant red flag. Hey, look at me! I'm important! Take it, bless it, break it, give it. Pass it, collect it, and count it.
maybe like a new topic.
I think, wait,
Right? But wait. Take it, bless it, break it, give it. Difference. This is my body. Now Jesus talks. He didn't do that over here. And there's no leftover. Like there was no leftover with manna in the wilderness. Pattern breaks. It's different. It's unique. It's special. It's important. Go ahead.
I may be thinking too hard,
That's okay.
but
I think too hard all the time.
maybe
That's what I do.
maybe in Mark 6 and 8, he's using that as an example of like his body too, but he's just not saying it.
I think he's setting them up for what's going to happen in the Last Supper. I think it's building. I think Mark's using it as a builder, right? I think too, and we can't ignore it. Jesus provides them with bread and fish. Yeah. What did Moses give them in the wilderness? Manna and quail. Right? This is a bit odd. It's going to sound weird. Just follow me on it. Okay. Birds and fish are a lot alike. God separates the waters above, the waters below. Birds fly in the sky, fish swim in the ocean, water. Yeah, okay. But you can also do fish fly in the water and birds swim in the air. Consider the motion, the mechanisms, the physics. Just make a goofy observation of it. Look at manta rays. There's your clear example. Yeah, you checking with me here? Okay. So manna and quail, bread and water creature. Sounds dumb. Just it's the separated waters, right? Bread and a creature from the waters above, and now bread and a creature from the waters. Parallelism is there. It's that new Moses. It's that new provision. It's that, hey, wait, I've seen in the wilderness, in a deserted place, when people are hungry and without food, God provides them bread and meat. It was bread and bird, now it's bread and fish. This too plays into a pattern. There's a pattern in the way that Mark tells the stories. Sit down, take it, bless it, break it, give it, pass it, collect it, count it. Woo! That's the pattern. And it gets repeated here, and then it gets repeated there. But the pattern of bread and meat is a biblical one all the way back to Moses. The pattern's changing. If you saw somebody with Jesus' life and claims magically, miraculously, we're more comfortable with miraculously, but miraculously providing bread and meat to a group of people who are hungry and in the wilderness, when you first read this story, you'd be going, "Oh, Moses! I've seen that." And then when he repeats the story a second time, you're not only going, "Oh, wait, he's doing it again." You're looking, wait, pattern, pattern, pattern. And then he does it. But the meat's missing. Because he says what? This is my body. This is the lamb. It's right here. And so now what's been bread and meat is bread and meat together. Yeah. This is some of the stuff we look at, we pay attention to, we, like you did in here with me, you throw it against the wall. What sticks? Missing food, need provision, God's miraculous provide. Right? The pattern of the storytelling and the repetition. These are things we're going to continue to pay attention to. We're going to continue to look at. We're going to continue to, all right, what do I do with it? And how do I make it make sense? Okay? And then we play connect the dots and we see if we can draw a T or color by number, whatever this is. Right? Okay. This kind of thing is some of that method for reading, analyzing, interpreting, and understanding what's going on in the scripture. Cool? Cool. We'll leave off there today. We'll pick up with some last notes on the Gospel of Mark tomorrow. And a game plan going forward now that our Matthew material is done. Cool. Thanks, guys.